Hello, everyone. Welcome in. It is the Bleav NFL live stream. Happy Halloween here on the Bleav YouTube channel. We are live every single Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time to react to this week's Week 8 NFL season. There are points. Points were scored today. Hallelujah. The Bleav Sports Network has 32 NFL podcasts and 32 former NFL players for every single team, and this show every single week will feature our wildly talented and entertaining roster. So what are you waiting for? Jump in the chat, comment, and toss in a question below. Come hang out with us for the next hour. You can follow me on Twitter at Joey Sports Guy or follow our main page at Bleav Sports. Before I bring in my very handsome, very well-dressed co-host here today for this Halloween episode, we do have a very special guest coming up in about 30 minutes. 4:30 Pacific time, we are going to have On My Blocks host, former Packers offensive lineman Mike Wahle will come on and preview Packers Bills. But let's bring in my co-host this week. He is the host of Bleav In Falcons. He's looking at a W today. Some people call him Rooster. I call him Will McFadden. What's up, Will? How are you?
What's up, Joey? Bradley Bradshaw here. Taking a minute, taking a beat from my sky travels to talk a little Falcons football, and NFL football writ large. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You're just taking a break from just massaging your abs with oils while you're twirling a football on the side of the beach, playing a football game that have no rules. There are no teams. There is no score, but it's building teamwork all at the same time. Spoiler alert for Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I was really shocked there weren't two offenses on the field at the exact same time today. Like, what kind of game is this? That there needs to be more action.
Oh man, the Raiders wish they had two offenses on the field today. They can only hope that Josh McDaniels is putting in a request to have possibly two offenses going forward. We're going to hit that game a little bit later. But Will, man, I think the top story today is on your block, my friend, your account. How is the game of the day not the Falcons versus the Panthers? The first place 4-4 Atlanta Falcons win in overtime 37-34. Maybe for people that missed the game, didn't get a chance to see it all, break it down for us. What is your reaction? How are you feeling? Huge win, wild swings, and a little Eddie Pinheiro sprinkled in there too as well.
I feel bad for Eddie Pinheiro, but on the other hand, make your damn kicks.
Yes,
that's your job. Man, if people didn't watch this game, that's actually probably a good thing. It was not, this game made me, I just got a haircut yesterday and fortunately I did, because I would have been pulling all of my hair out. And that was kind of, it's awesome that the Falcons are in first place in the NFC South, but the winner of this game kind of deserved to be in the first place of the NFC South, because this division has not been great. This game was weirdly high scoring, like 37-34. You expect that to be a really entertaining game. This game kind of wasn't the most entertaining game in the world. It was a little bit of just kind of which team was going to make the least mistakes, which is more Falcons football of yesteryear. Under Arthur Smith, like the Falcons have been largely, fairly good at avoiding the mistakes, at avoiding kind of these head scratching moments. And they gave them up, but fortunately, the Panthers had more of them. And I think that Marcus Mariota had the bad interception late. He kind of redeemed himself a little bit with a scramble there. The Falcons are legit. They're not a great team by any means, but they're good enough, certainly, to make the playoffs. I mean, if you have an identity like they do with their run game, week to week, that's going to get you places. Because a lot of teams in the NFL don't have that identity that they can truly rely on that is as good as the Falcons run game. So a win is awesome. They're in first place. That is huge. They were expected to be 2 or 3 wins this year. They have 4 already, and the easier part of their schedule is ahead of them. So they're going places, but today was not their best performance, I would say.
Yeah, especially after Cordarrelle Patterson goes on injured reserve after a couple of games, you kind of say to yourself, oh boy, here we go. Let's maybe start the Desmond Ridder watch. I don't know. You know what I mean? You start playing those games a little bit. But yeah, Mariota throws for 253 today. Throws for 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If you look at the box score, looks like he spread it around a little bit. We had a Kyle Pitts sighting today, which was very, very exciting. But before, I want to get on to the Panthers in a second. I think the big topic, and a little bit of a segment we have on here called Step In on Monday. We are going to talk a little bit about that DJ Moore play at the very end. But I do want to talk to you. You hit it on the head where you're asking yourself, can the Falcons have staying power? They're in first place right now in the AFC South. NFC South. Bad division right now. No one's really grabbing that thing by the horns and trying to
AFC
take
South
control
not
there.
good either, by the way. So
Yeah,
either one.
I was good. I was cool either way. But you mentioned something really interesting that maybe makes some people think that the Falcons do have staying power. Is that I just feel like what's in vogue right now this season is running the football.
Yep.
I mean, we'll see what happens in a month from now. But, this explosive, high-powered passing offenses that we've seen of years past, outside of a couple of exceptions, and we're going to hit a couple of those teams today as the Eagles move to 7-0. But other than that, a lot of these teams are making their hay running the football right now, and the Falcons are certainly doing that with Algier. And I'm sorry, who was the other? Was it Huntley today? Also stepped
Caleb
up
Huntley,
too as well. Yeah. So, just talk about that because that is the bread and butter for this Falcons team, and that might actually help them really stick around at the very least in an NFC that the 7th seed could get you in with 7 or 8 wins this year. It's looking like that.
Yeah, the NFC, coming into the year, we expected the NFC to be the lesser of the two conferences, right? But it's been even the teams that we kind of thought would be at the top, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, all the Bays, they're kind of falling flat. So yes, 100% up for grabs for Atlanta. And the run game is partially out of necessity. I kind of think that the passing era was led by the improvement of the quarterback position, but now has kind of been buoyed by the play of the wide receivers. As the game has evolved and you've got, your best players in middle school, high school football used to play running back because they would get the ball all the time. Now it's quarterback or it's receiver and maybe even tight end. Like Kyle Pitts, you mentioned he had a touchdown today. I'm still kind of waiting for Kyle Pitts to take over the league like we expected.
What's going on there? Is it a Mariota situation right now? Is it a Kyle Pitts situation? Is it a scheme thing? What is it? Because fantasy teams across the country are dying to find out which Kyle Pitts will show up each week.
Yeah, that's a big question, right? And as somebody who has, frankly, to be fully candid here,
put it out there. Yeah.
I got Kyle Pitts on some fantasy teams as well, so I'm with you. This is in the streets reporting right here. I'm like at the heartbeat. No, it's really tough to tell because sometimes it is Mariota. Sometimes it is he's open. There was a play today on Marcus Mariota's interception where Kyle Pitts was open, but it's really hard to tell what is the read, what's the progression, and what was the pre-snap read. Teams are kind of trying to take Kyle Pitts away, but honestly, I go back and watch the All-22, it's not like they're giving him the Julio Jones attention, right? It's not like they are, we're going to make you go anywhere else. That is why I put part of it on Mariota and I put part of it on whatever the progression of the play may be. I think Arthur Smith is fully aware of just how dangerously Kyle Pitts is perceived to be. So I think that he does a pretty good job of using him. And decoy is like an ugly word, but I do think that they use him as a distraction and then they get the wide open play.
Can I interject now? Maybe this is an armchair, maybe psychiatrist thing, and it probably isn't happening. But is it at all possible that Arthur Smith is psyching himself out, where he's like, "Look, I know they're going to take away Kyle Pitts before he even walks in the door," and is he just trying to maybe get other people involved? Is he psyching himself out? Because, in my opinion, I think Kyle Pitts is the type of player that you need to feed, you need to scheme, and you need to figure out ways. It's just like a Christian McCaffrey and any other team. There's got to be a way that you figure out a way to target this guy 7 to 10 times a game, regardless of if he's doubled it. Brett, you got to figure it out, right? So,
yeah.
Is there anything going on like that? Because, honestly, it's going to be one of the reasons too that's as we move forward, running game, stop the Falcons running game. How do you subvert that? You got a guy like Kyle Pitts. You've got a player like Drake London out there to make some plays. I'm just kind of curious to see, can they keep this going with Kyle Pitts? Because gosh, would we like to see that? It's been so bad this year.
And so he had 9 targets today. So 7 to 10 right in that window. 5 catches, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. It's his best game of the season. But again, his best game of the season is 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. This is a guy who should be putting up 9, 137, and 2 on a weekly basis. Like, he should be putting up Mike Evans numbers. He should be putting up, CD Lamb numbers, AJ Brown number, like the top receivers in the league. That's where he is. He is of that caliber. And we did see it in training camp. I saw it with my eyes. I can verify Kyle Pitts is a good football player. But I think that the Arthur Smith psyching himself out, I think Arthur Smith is very smart. Yeah, I really do think that he understands football in a way that is so advanced, he almost simplifies it, if that makes sense. It's like you kind of grasp everything so fully that you are able to throw out what doesn't matter and focus on what does matter, where somebody who may not, who understands it at a high level, but not necessarily high enough where they're going to get distracted by some of the things that are window dressings, but may not actually impact a play. And it's kind of like, I think Arthur Smith is very, very good at offense. I relate significantly to overthinking yourself. It is something I do all the time, where I think that it's like, oh, I'm going to be one step ahead of everybody else to the detriment of myself.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's possible. And we've got a lot of football to go. And I've been preaching on this show very recently that, honestly, in general, I don't think the football's been very good this year, just across the league. We're seeing a lot with the running game right now, but I do want to reassess towards Thanksgiving. So there is that next month right now where can the Falcons actually begin to incorporate Kyle Pitts a little bit more and make him a little bit more of that weapon. I want to move on to some other games real quick. But before we do, I want to talk about that final play. We're here on Bleav NFL Live, coming up in about 20 minutes. Former Packers O-lineman Mike Wahle is going to join to preview Packers Bills for the Sunday Night Football game. Before we get off this game, it is, there's a lot of high drama going on between these two teams today. Let's talk about the final play with DJ Moore. I'm going to ask you a two-parter. First one, how the hell does that happen at the end? How do you let him get in front of you, or behind you, however you want to look at it? And then the other one is, can you explain to me how a guy can score a touchdown, leave the field, take off his helmet, and get a taunting penalty, yet if he just goes 150 feet and takes a left-hand turn, he's now on the sideline and he can take his helmet off? What is this rule? Is it something that the NFL probably needs to look into? Because it seems I just don't understand. How is it taunting? Is it a safety rule? What is it? Why is that? But honestly, it was a huge break, because then that's how the Panthers missed the extra point.
Well, first off, I would like to say thank you for letting me realize my lifelong dream of podcasting with Bill Simmons, because he tweeted the exact same thing.
Are you serious? Oh, damn it. Oh, damn it. Boo hiss.
He tweeted the exact same thing.
I didn't know, but whatever. Everyone can tell me I'm ripping on that. That's fine. But no, but honestly, good. That was the first thing I thought, though. Is he rips off his helmet and he jumps into the stands, though. The play is over. He's not even on the play of field. I don't get that.
I don't like that penalty. I'm for, like, you scored a touchdown in a moment that ties the game for your team, and the defense was doing everything it could to prevent exactly what you just did. Like, of course, take your helmet off, celebrate, do everything you want to do. Like,
crazy play. I
know that the penalty benefited the Falcons, but I'm kind of against that a little bit. As for the play itself, DJ, Rashaan Evans and Dean Marlowe were the two players kind of defending DJ Moore on that play. Two veterans who have been in the league. Rashaan Evans 5-6 years now, Dean Marlowe a little bit longer than that. So these guys kind of know what they're doing. It was a weird play, because as I was watching the replay of it, you can see them both kind of like slow down a little bit as DJ Moore. So it's like a longer developing play. It's not a straight sprint to the end zone. It's kind of like, okay, scramble drill a little bit. I'm going to go deep. Those guys slow down. And as they slowed down, I was like, Rashaan Evans or Dean Marlowe, why aren't one of you guys getting on top of DJ Moore to kind of go like low high and have him here in the middle? And then you prevent kind of what exactly happens. But no, they both stayed below him. You give PJ Walker that space over top. It was a great play by Carolina. I mean, again, very happy the Falcons won. Carolina should have won this game. I mean, like I came away from this not feeling any better about the Falcons. They They won the game, but this is, again, the easier part of their schedule. They just got finished with a daunting 7-game stretch to open the season. You can beat the 49ers by 2 touchdowns and you go into overtime against Carolina. Like, that's what we need to see from Atlanta is take the next step, beat the teams that you're supposed to beat and beat them handily. So, yeah, I mean, the DJ Moore touchdown was great for Carolina. It was tough for Atlanta, but yeah, it was bad.
I think that's the nature of the NFL this year. Is I think a lot of these teams out there, go ask the New York Giants, who I think are about to lose to the Seattle Seahawks, but ask the Giants fans. Some of these games, they got to take a shower after they get these W's because they haven't been clean. I mean, outside of a couple of football teams, not a lot of these have been these runaway functioning oiled machines that we're seeing typically of who are the great teams in the NFL. We're not really seeing it right now. And, for me as a Bears fan, hey man, if you get that win, it's in the column. You know what I mean? And it stays there. We're printing that thing. That's it. That's an ink now. You can't take it off of you. And good for the Falcons, who are now 4-4. Let's zip around to a couple of other games here before we bring in Mike Wahle. Let's just play a little game here of what's the story. And when I say what's the story is I'm going to give you a game. We're going to do a score. And then I want you to tell me maybe what you think the story is on Monday. And I might throw a couple in there for you too as well. Let's start first with the Dolphins. They beat the Lions 31-27. The Dolphins are now 5-3. The Lions fall to 1-6. The Lions were up 27-17 at the half. They did not score in the second half, and they end up losing 31-27. So I'm going to go first on this one. What's the story? Why is Dan Campbell still coaching this team, Will?
Wow.
Why?
Really?
Why? Oh, for real. Oh, are you kidding me? They're on Hard Knocks. They come in this year. They've got all this draft capital. Their arrows pointing up. He's got them going. This defense is loaded with young little pieces and all sorts of stuff. We love Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they're 1-6. And it's not just so much like the Lions being the Lions, because the manner in which they're losing is particularly Lions this year. And I mean, dude, they're 1-6. That is not what they expected and not how they thought it was going to go. And if Dan Campbell's the kind of guy who in a locker room is supposed to be, squeezing the towel and getting wins out of these guys to have them push that extra inch and that extra yard, I don't see it happening. So my question is it only a matter of time?
I mean, I think it is. That being said, like, I think Dan Campbell is exactly what you would want in a football coach, right? But the issue with some of these player-driven coaches are the attention to detail, right? And it's situational football that's beating the Lions. The Lions are a talented team. They do have quality play. I mean, I would be very curious to see what the number of offensive players on the Lions compared to every other team in the NFL is on like fantasy rosters. Because I think that the Lions have a lot of players on fantasy rosters.
At least 4 guys.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hawkinson, and the 2 running backs.
Yep. Swift, Williams, Jared Goff,
And Goff in 2 quarterback leagues.
Like,
yeah. No, for sure.
So it's like they've got the talent. But you look at situations, they are 31st on third down on defense. They're 29th in the red zone. That's going to lose you a lot of close games. And they're losing close games. And then on third down offensively, they're 24th in the league. Now they're 3rd in the red zone. They're able to put up points, but it's these small, like, it's so hard to win in the NFL. And you have to be almost flawless in some of these like very detailed situational aspects to win these games. And the Lions just have not been. And so, I credit Dan Campbell for at least making the Lions entertaining. They're maybe one of the most entertaining, like 1-6 teams in the NFL, in NFL history, frankly. But
they're an easy over too, as well, on the points every single week.
Right,
hammering that over.
There's something that's working here. It just they need to tighten the screws. So that's why I'm like, they've at least taken one step forward. Which, if you're Detroit, like, I'm willing to buy into that a little bit more. So from this game, to me, the story is Tua. A massive game coming back. He was playing so well before he, sustained the back-to-back concussions. And, it's really awesome to see him kind of bounce back today like that. But I think that, we watched Trevor Lawrence this morning in London kind of make some mistakes. And you're like, when are these players who are supposed to be these greats take a step forward? Tua is doing that this season. And so to
Mhm.
me, that is the game. And then on a personal note, Fantasy League traded for Jalen Waddle this week. Christian Kirk, Brian Robinson for Jalen Waddle in return.
How's it
Feeling
working
pretty
out?
good about that. Feeling
It
pretty good
worked
about
out.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, a
that's
little bit.
nice.
A little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a little cherry on top of that Sunday there that you were talking about Tua and obviously Waddle. Do you realize that it's not even November yet and Tyreek Hill has 961 receiving yards? Can we just sit in awe of that for a second? He's only got 2 touchdowns, but he already has 4 games of over 160 yards receiving. He did it again today with 12 catches for 188 yards. He's got 69 receptions on the year for 961. They're 8 games in. I mean, as of right now, he's trending towards a 2,000-yard receiving season. I mean, it's pretty incredible right now. And the best part about it is that he's putting up those types of numbers. And then you have, like you said, Jalen Waddle is not that far behind, man. He's in the 600-700-yard range already. They could have if Tua could literally have 2 receivers that combines for close to 3,500 yards this year. Just those 2 guys like by itself. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, they're pretty dangerous. And I think it is good to see Tua back and playing well, and he's healthy. And it looks like that the Dolphins are now a force to be reckoned with once more. Let's move it forward here. I'm going to let you pick this one. Vikings moved to 6-1. They beat the Cardinals 34-26. The Cardinals are now 3-5. I'll be honest with you, man. I kind of thought the Cardinals might be able to come in here and sneak this game out. For you, what's your takeaway? What's the story? What are we talking about on Monday after this game?
Yeah, I kind of thought Arizona could as well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with DeAndre Hopkins back in this game, like they're a much different team. And I'm so tempted to say that DeAndre Hopkins is the takeaway from this game. 13 targets, 12 catches, 159 yards, a touchdown. Like that one-handed catch, that touchdown was amazing. That being said, the Vikings, I think the story coming out of this game at 6-1, the Vikings are the class of the NFC. And I think that's a little bit surprising to a lot of people because it's such a weird NFC year, right? And the best teams are kind of tripping over themselves. They're making these mistakes. They're declining, frankly. Like the quarterback play of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers is just not where it's been. The Vikings kind of just don't make mistakes. They're not going to wow you. They're like almost a better version of the Falcons, where it's like, we're not flashy. We're not going to do anything to like take your breath away. You kind of know what we are. We just do it very well. We just execute at a high level. Our defense does enough. It's not necessarily the Mike Zimmer Vikings defense of old, but several sacks today. I think that this is a complete team, and the NFC is missing one of these really complete teams. And so that's the takeaway for me is the Vikings. Are they the favorite in the NFC right now? Maybe.
Well, and I think the story too as well, and I'm in agreement with you, is that the Vikings are in cruise control in the NFC North right now. I mean, we're going to see what happens with the Packers and the Bills tonight, but if the Packers lose to the Bills, that's just another game down. Bears lost today. I mean, they are getting some shouting distance right now in that NFC North, which is an intriguing position to be in a little bit because, halfway through the season and you have possibly a 3-game lead in the division. What does that mean for the team? Of course, they're going to keep pushing. But without that behind them, I mean, they're looking to be in really, really great shape. And with the Vikings, man, it isn't sexy, it isn't cool, and it is that kind of that thing a little bit where I don't know. Have you ever had that buddy that like is just perpetually just like falling in love with his significant other, but only dates them for 3 months, and then they break up and they go through this huge breakup, and you're just like, so when he meets someone new, he's like, oh man, this person is the one for me. I'm in love, Will, and then you're just like, all right. You're like, talk to me in 90 days. That's kind of that's a little bit of the Vikings right now, right? I mean, they've had these talented pieces around them on offense, at least these last couple of years, haven't been able to cash in. And now they're kind of winning the games that they were losing last year. And so it's a little bit of a wait and see, but you're right. I mean, they are definitely possibly the class of the NFC right now. I mean, 49ers be damned after just kicking the crap out of the Rams. I think that's a final right now. Let's just rip through a couple more real quick. Saints 3-5 with a big win today, 24-0 over the Raiders. The Raiders are 2-5 right now. Carr eventually did not finish the game, not due to injury, but due to ineffectiveness. Kamara had a huge game, 2 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. What's the story, Will? I mean, I think the story very briefly is that the Raiders aren't very good. Josh McDaniels is somehow taken an offense that played really well last year, that added Devontae Adams, and now it's this. Is that the story? Oh no, did he freeze on me? Oh no. We've had this happen here before, folks. It's okay. Oh wait, did I get him back? Hey, Will, do I got you back?
You got me back.
Oh, okay, cool. I mentioned the Raiders and you bailed. No.
It's Halloween. I was ghosting you.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, man. You're giving me the old Derek Carr treatment. Appreciate it.
Go.
I was just saying we don't have to belabor this game too much, but I think the story is that the Raiders aren't very good. And I'm just asking myself the question, how do you add Josh McDaniels and Devontae Adams to an offense that was good last year, and now they're just completely dysfunctional? I just feel like that's the story out of this game.
Yeah, I think Josh McDaniels is kind of the story out of this game. It's like the Raiders, again, kind of a talented team. Like I like a lot of the pieces that they have. They've been better than this in the past. And what is different? It's the coaching, and it's kind of what they're doing. And so I mean, I think that, yeah, like the Saints, it's really, really hard to tell like what the heck the Saints are this year. Injuries play a big role in that. Alvin Kamara kind of resurging today was really cool. But
Dalton.
Just
Dalton.
Dalton. But yeah, I mean, I think that the takeaway from me for this game is Vegas and kind of their issues rather than the Saints and like a 24-0 win like that. I think it's more on the Raiders than the Saints.
Yeah, let's just hit a couple more here really quickly. We did have, as you mentioned, Broncos this morning picked up a win 21-17 over the Jaguars. If you were lucky enough to get up early to watch it, Broncos are now 3-5. The Jags fall to 2-6. Travis Etienne runs for 156 yards, but I think you kind of nipped it a little bit. The story of this game is Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
Where are we with him? Right. I mean, this guy was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck. He clearly isn't that, so we should be giving him some time. But, I mean, he does not look like the transcendent talent that I think a lot of people thought coming out of Clemson.
Yeah, that interception down in the red zone as he was rolling out to his right, I literally said out loud, throw it away. Throw it away. It's not there. Like, live to fight. And then what does he do? He throws a pick. And it's like, why are you trying to force this? Just do the little things. Just do the little things right. Mm-hmm. And that is what is so hard. Like when we talk about quarterbacks kind of taking that leap, it's the awareness. It's the ability to get that 30,000 foot view of the game while you're inside of an individual play. And so hard to have that awareness. He just needs to find that. He just needs to find that. And he's a really, really good quarterback. He's really talented. I watched him in high school. I had the chance to talk to him. So like, I'm a big fan of Trevor Lawrence's. I think that he is going to be very good in this league. It's just the little nuances of the game that I think still escape him at times.
Yeah, no, and we're going to bring in Mike Wahle here in just a minute, just to kind of wrap up on that thought. To piggyback, let's just talk really quick. Cowboys beat the Chicago Bears today, 49-29. Of course, that's my count. That's my block. The takeaways from that game, I think Tony Pollard is really good. The Cowboys should maybe consider making him the full time. I know they want to keep Zeke involved to try and give him short yardage stuff, but clearly Tony Pollard out there makes them more of a potent offense against the defense. The Chicago Bears defense just didn't play very well. And then on top of that, we'll talk about this after Mike a little bit, but Justin Fields is starting to stack good games together. Yep. And there's a quietness about the way that he's playing right now. And a lot of people throw the word poise out there, but he just seems more comfortable with his decision-making, whether it just isn't the ball coming out of his hand, but when to tuck and run and pick up those extra yards if possible. And for the Chicago Bears, they can keep losing these games, get a high draft pick. Justin Fields continues to play this way that he has the past 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's good news for the Bears franchise moving forward. That's the best I could probably do on a day when they give up 49 points. And they don't touch a guy on a fumble, and Micah Parsons picks it up and runs at 36 yards for a touchdown. But I digress. Let's go to a more interesting game that's happening tonight. I'm really excited to have this guest on. We're going to add him into the stream right now, coming in right now. He is the host of On My Block with Amon Green for the Bleav Podcast Network. He's a former Packers offensive lineman. I've been watching his content over the last few months with Amon. I'm really loving all their stuff. They have great insights, and he's going to help break down the Packers-Bills game. It's Mike Wahle. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the pod. Happy Halloween. How are you today? Oh, we got a little sound. Double check your sound. Yeah, okay, no worries. Yeah, take a second. I can talk about Justin Fields more. It's totally fine. No, the one game that we actually, while Mike's working on the audio, the one game that we didn't actually get to really quickly, Will. There's actually two games. One, the Patriots beat the Jets 22-10. I think a lot of people thought possibly that the Jets were going to be able to actually stand up at some point and actually beat the Patriots, but that didn't really look like that happened. Zach Wilson again threw for a bunch of yards, not a whole, didn't really it was able to do much there in terms of offensive production. Mike, how we looking?
I think we're looking pretty good, guys. How we doing?
I hear you loud and clear,
Hey.
Mike. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, sorry about that. Every time I try to play with technology, I show that I'm damn near a grandfather at this point.
That's all right. I still have an Android phone, and I get guff about it all the time because apparently there's a messaging and there's a color scheme that I'm not completely
Something
familiar
going on
with.
there.
There's something going on there. Well, Mike, we're so happy to have you on here tonight, and here to help us preview a game that's coming up in just about a half hour right now. Packers Bills. I'm gonna start off super easy for you. Is this a must-win for the Packers tonight?
Ooh, no, I don't think it's a must-win for the Packers just because I don't think they're going to win. And the way that this NFC is going to play out, there's probably going to be a couple teams from the NFC East. You can make any argument there's going to be a couple teams from the NFC West. I just ride and die with the NFC North is still ours until the door completely shuts. Just because Kirk Cousins is still throwing balls in Minnesota. I know he's having a good year, but like we've seen this movie one too many times, I think.
Oh yeah.
As a football fan, not just a Packers fan. So there's we have a lot of work to do. And this Bills team presents so many problems on so many different levels. The expectation going into tonight, I mean, listen, I know there's no moral victories in the National Football League, but this is one of those games where some of our guys just have to show up and start playing the way that we know they're capable of. And whether that ends up in a win or not, I think is, almost irrelevant.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And Will, just real quick, is it at the point a little bit with the Buffalo Bills? They are a team that I feel like is just maybe a cut above all the other teams currently in the NFL in terms of the way that they're playing right now. I don't want to say style points, but is it sometimes about maybe not beating the Buffalo Bills, but it's how you play, it's how you progress against a team like the Buffalo Bills? Is that maybe something that the Packers can get out of tonight's performance?
Sure. I mean, it's a measuring stick, right? I think that the Bills have two things that a lot of teams in the NFL right now kind of don't have, and that is talent and familiarity and consistency. Yeah, obviously the coaching staff, Brian Daboll not being there is a big deal, but player-wise, this roster kind of there's an inherent comfort, I think, with a lot of guys on this team. So yes, the Bills are probably with the Chiefs right now. I'm trying to think I hope I'm not leaving anybody. The Giants, Cowboys,
Bills,
Eagles,
Chiefs, Eagles, right?
Yeah. Are the kind of premier teams right now. But frankly, I mean, Green Bay has not played well against pretty much anybody so far.
We haven't really had a good game.
Right. So it's yes, playing well in a loss against Buffalo maybe gives you some reason for optimism in the future. But at this point, kind of like Green Bay needs to figure out what they are. It's less about kind of how they perform, I think, against another team or who they're playing. Like they need to find their identity for what they're going to be for the rest of the season because the clock is kind of ticking on that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Will. Mike, if you can weigh in on that. I was going to ask what would be the keys to a successful game or maybe a perhaps even a win against the Buffalo Bills tonight. I saw you were tweeting just a couple of days ago about encouraging them to possibly deploy some more 6 offensive linemen on the line and start providing some of that protection there. Can you just talk a little bit about what the Packers need to do to build an identity? What can it be with the pieces that are currently on this roster right now?
Well, if you look at our best player on offense right now has been Aaron Jones as far as just effectiveness per snap, and they just don't feed him the ball. Week in and week out, the conversation is always how we're going to get the run game going, how we're going to feed this guy in the backfield, and AJ Dillon, who hasn't produced like he did last year. But again, if you kind of look at the way that he got into rhythm last year, the concept was he started a little bit slower, started playing behind his pads as the games went on. They're just not getting touches, so it creates a whole different level of problems for us right now. We don't stretch the ball vertically. We've had a really horizontal passing game. So Aaron's been trying to get rid of the ball very quickly because we're shuffling around offensive linemen. We just not have the familiarity with the wide receivers. So for us, as a Packers fan, we're really just like, can we establish a run with Aaron Jones? And what does that mean against the Buffalo Bills? The Buffalo Bills are number one against the run. I think offenses are averaging something like 3.5 yards a carry, and their base defense is the 4-2 nickel. So this is something that we used to do in the past, and a lot of teams are still doing. Whether it's like add an extra offensive lineman, bringing a fullback in, but doing something to disrupt their normal count, and then using guys. Hopefully, we have Watson back. He runs a 4.3, 6'5", 220 pounds, runs a 4.3. Can we start stretching that defense vertically off of these play action passes, under center plays, extra linemen, just sucking people up and showing windows? When you watch the Buffalo Bills on defense, when they give up big plays, it's off a play action pass, it's off a bunch of trips looks, and they'll run enough single safety stuff where guys will actually get beat. We're just not even trying to do this stuff right now. So I mean, I'm all over the place there, but I guess the bottom line is like you have to start with, are we even going to try to establish a run game, something that, or a facade of a run game, so we can build something off it right now? Because our receivers, as they are, don't look capable of creating offense for us.
And if I can just follow up really quick, I think there's a national narrative that's going on, and maybe it has a little bit to do with sharing the limelight with Tom Brady a little bit of Aaron Rodgers looks old, but everything that you just described is not an ideal fit from Packers offenses in the past and maybe just a general offense in general. So what is the frustration level right now, you think, with Rodgers at this particular time?
Well, I think he's been pretty transparent with it. And I know some people will disagree with this, but when he goes out in the media and he starts off by saying during training camp that the guys are going to be held to a certain level and they're not necessarily there right now. Then we have a bunch of mental errors earlier in the season. We have there's a difference between like performance errors, like you drop a pass or you miss a block, and then there's mental errors, right? And he's been really upset about the mental errors and not the side adjustments on routes and things like that. He comes out and says he wants to simplify the offense. We go back out. Nothing seems changed. They make 20. I think he said there was up to 20% mental errors during offensive snaps during the game in recent weeks. And then, now he's talking about guys either fix it or they're not going to play, putting himself on the same level as the coaching staff. So like my thing is he's probably talking to Matt LaFleur. We need to make some changes. We need to make some changes structurally in what we're doing, how we're calling plays, like have a handful of concepts that these young receivers can get really familiar with. They know like the back of their hand. They know the side adjustments. They know every defense that they're going to run against. They know exactly what to do in these situations. Don't make this entire play sheet about how many plays we can run. Make it about having 8 concepts that are really good that we can run, we can run at a high level, and then we can build out from there. But there's no way to get confidence if you're feeding yourself through the fire hose all the time. That's what it feels like, I think, for some of these receivers.
Mike, you talk about like gaining confidence, and I think part of the Packers' struggle has been on third down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're 25th in the league right now on third down. What has been? Is it some of these mental mistakes that you're talking about, or are they drop passes, kind of like more
Everything.
Execution mistakes?
Well, it's everything. You get behind the sticks. Like the biggest thing with the Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers relationship over the last couple of years is they've been able to stay on schedule, right? You don't have to go off script. And because of penetration in the run game against the offensive lineman and the interior of the offensive line in particular, maybe guys are crossing Aaron's face more often than not in the passing game. So he's coming off that first read. Guys aren't running the right routes. Guys are dropping passes. We've had a lot of drops this year. I mean, there's just so many things. It's just, again, when I always look at it like, let's make this as simple as possible. Take away all the fringe. People talk about running high school offenses. Like high school offenses work. The team innovation comes in football and any sport where the athletes are not, right? So like the best way to run stuff, you just look where there's less athletes. Right now, as an offense, we don't have great athletes. I mean, and I say that, or I should say, we don't have very accomplished football players. And so you have to start thinking like, let's simplify this so they can execute at a high level, and then maybe we can build that out.
We're here just a couple more minutes with former Packers O-lineman and host of On My Block with Amon Green, Mike Wahle. Mike, man, thank you so much for joining us. Let's just do it right now. You kind of hinted at it in the beginning. You're saying the Packers lose tonight. Are you a final score prediction kind of guy? How do you think this game's going to go? How do you think it can look? Can the Packers maybe have something click tonight and maybe still lose the game and move forward in a positive direction?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. I mean, I think everybody as Packer fans would rather lose in a shootout tonight than lose in a game that's is extremely one-sided. I think our defense, is on paper they're top 5. We have 7 first-round draft picks. We have Kenny Clark. We have Sean Gary. We have guys that can play in this league, and it just is not coming together right now. How we thought it might. We've missed a lot of tackles, in other words, a lot of the same thing that plagued us last year is rearing its ugly head again. I don't think anybody's going to stop Josh Allen. I think their point spread right now is like 16. They score 30, they give up 14 about every game. So I don't think we're going to hold these guys, to 20 points. I think they're going to score 25, 30, 35 points. And if we can get into the high 20s and give ourselves a chance, that would be great. I think that's got to be what we're shooting for. But it's just, we need to see, I think as a team, as a locker room, like they need to see some improvement, and they need to see that there are structural changes being made to put people in positions to be successful. Because that's really what seems to escape us right now is when you watch these games as like a former player, somebody who studies the game all the time, like they're really not in positions to be successful right now.
And you just kind of hope even perhaps in defeat tonight, they can scratch the surface on something that they can just try and build on, that by Thanksgiving, maybe they look a little bit more like the Packers last year and the Packers that we all thought was going to play this year. Mike, before we get you out of here, this is a kind of a tangential question. And Will, if you want to go first in this one, I wanted to ask you guys, we're at week 8 right now. We still have some time. I like to reassess again at Thanksgiving, but as it stands right now, which team is the biggest surprise to you right now? I'm going to throw a couple out to you, and if I don't have one, pull one from off the board if you'd like. The Buccaneers at 3-5, the Falcons, the first place Falcons at 4-4, the Vikings at 6-1, or let's say also the Packers at 3-4. What's been the biggest surprise, plus or minus, for you so far, Will?
I think it's the Eagles. I mean, they're worthy of all of the celebration that we're giving them because they are playing like a dominant football team, but they've been playing like that kind of from the jump, which is not very common in the NFL. It takes a little bit of time for you to kind of hit that groove. And the Eagles, we'll see. It's a long season. My hope is that they have not kind of burned all of their fuel on takeoff, and that they've got some to kind of reach the upper atmosphere and get into space and kind of finish this thing off. But they've been so good this year. I think Jalen Hurts taking his next step. A.J. Brown, we saw today with an exclamation point, what his addition means for this offense and especially their passing game. Miles Sanders has been better. Their defense is awesome. Like the Eagles, to me, being the team, maybe with Buffalo in the NFL, like that's the story so far.
Yeah, you could certainly say. I mean, Sirianni lost his press conference, and he seems like he's won ever since then, right? Like he's amazing. They've done an amazing job over there. I love the culture that they've developed there. Brian Daboll and the Giants. You could talk about him as well. I'm going to talk about the team that the Giants lost to the Seahawks. I just love the story. I love Pete Carroll and John Schneider saying, you know what, the let Russ cook thing really doesn't work for us. And we're gonna go ahead and trade you away. We're gonna take a ton of draft picks. Geno Smith's gonna be our guy. We're gonna coach him up. We're gonna put in an offense that makes sense for us, makes sense for the Pete Carroll style of play. Their draft class this year, John Schneider. I mean, he's hit some home runs in the past. Think about their draft class this year. First, second, third, fifth, and sixth round picks are all starting and playing at an extremely high level. Starting with Charles Cross at left tackle. I mean, that's an amazing draft class. 2022 guys coming in and playing and making a difference in the National Football League at this level. Amazing. So I love the Seahawks, what they're doing right now. That's a really tough division, obviously, but I'd love to see how far they can get with Geno Smith because he's playing at a really high level.
And now they have Kenneth Walker, sudden stud, who's now got the keys in the backfield, and he's already producing at a high level very early on. Mike, we're going to get you out of here. Real quick, you mentioned the Sirianni thing, and I wanted to ask you, you've been in the locker rooms, you've had microphones in your face before. Have you ever started a soundbite and you got halfway through and you said, what the hell am I talking about? Or where am I going? Has it ever happened to you?
Oh, the stream of consciousness. I mean, I think I probably got pretty close tonight. Like the stream of consciousness is a real thing. And it's like
all the time.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like Ricky Bobby. Like that stuff that is a real, especially when you start talking football, because guys get so excited. You start talking about this stuff and like the tangents you can go off of, and like they make total sense in here, and then you turn around, the guy's giving you a blank stare. It's like, Man, color blue is my answer. That's it. That's all I got.
Did I just talk about planting seeds and chopping wood, or
Yeah.
what? Just
Oh, you're right. That's right. You're throwing out Abraham Lincoln quotes, and it's like, what? Abraham Lincoln? What happened? I don't.
To quote the great Abraham Lincoln, we got to win next week. All right, thanks, guys. I got to hit the showers. I'm out of here. Mike, man, such a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and being so gracious to hop on here for just a couple minutes to preview Packers Bills tonight. Everyone who's watching this right now, please check out On My Block with Amon Green and Mike Wahle every single week, breaking down amazing Packers content. I'm a Bears fan, and I got to say, it's great content. I just got to give it up to you. I just have to do it. So, Mike, if you can, just throw out your socials really quick. Thank you so much for joining Bleav NFL Live, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Mike Ball 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram, Mike Ball 68 on TikTok. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
That was Mike Wahle right there. That was awesome. That was really good stuff.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about it, we talk all the time about, we're not dialed in. You're dialed in your Falcons because you do it for your job. I'm dialed on the Bears. We try and watch every single game. We don't get a chance to see every single press conference. And it's just kind of funny that, when you get into it a little bit, what the Packers are trying to work through right now, to have something click, right? To have something happen, build that identity that they can actually move and turn that into stacked performances moving forward. And for sometimes some NFL teams, it happens. And you know what? Sometimes, Will, it doesn't happen.
One of the hardest things I think in this league is stacking wins. And that's for a lot of different reasons. It's because one week when you do something that works, everybody else has tape on that. The next opponent that you're going to play is watching exactly what you just did well that you're hoping to build on, and they are formulating a plan to prevent you from doing that exact thing. So it's the ability to not only have an identity, and I mentioned the Falcons run game, that's a perfect example. They can kind of go back to that whenever they need to and know that, hey, we're going to probably get 4 or 5 yards on each play. If we're going to run the ball, we can kind of do that, and it's going to work against some teams. The good teams have multiple identities, and that especially becomes a factor in the playoffs where other teams are going to specifically try to make you play left-handed. Now, as a lefty, I somewhat take offense to that phrase, but that's neither here nor there. You've got to be able to have things that you can rely on in multitude. And I think the Packers are searching for their very first kind of level of identity. And Aaron Rodgers maybe is that one, but if teams are going to, honestly, I was going to say like take away the pass. They don't even have to, because the passing game is not clicked. Like we talked about like Ryan Dubs a few weeks ago is he the number one receiver that Aaron Rodgers has been looking for? No. Like that didn't turn into anything there.
And Lazard can't stay healthy.
Exactly. Yeah. And Christian Watson, same deal. Like he's had his mistakes. They are a team for so long that has had the clear identity, and it has been Aaron Rodgers. But I think we're seeing that it was also the guys around Aaron Rodgers to some degree as well. And that's not to say that Aaron Rodgers isn't amazing, that he's not a former league MVP and all of that stuff. Like, it's just that he missed Devontae Adams a little bit more than I'm yeah. honestly baffled by the fact that they don't use Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon a little bit more, because you would think they would kind of pull it back a little bit, lean on the run game, lean on, like, where are our best players? They're in the backfield, or at least our most proven players. So yeah, I like the Packers. To me, the Bills are a sexy matchup, but it starts internally. If you're Green Bay, like, you've got to figure out what you are before you start looking at who the opponent is.
Yeah, no, and it's a fascinating concept that every NFL team goes through. And you look around the league, and man, let's just go back to my Bears just really quick. The first 3 weeks of the season, the Chicago Bears weren't just a punchline or the laughing stock offensively. I mean, they were putting up historical numbers beyond which we had never seen before. But what have they kind of realized over the last 2 or 3 weeks is that, like, we're going to run the ball. They've run the ball for over 200 team rushing yards for 3 straight games now.
Because they finally gave it to Khalil Herbert. What are they doing?
They gave it to Khalil Herbert, right? And they started doing design runs for Justin Fields, and they just said, screw it. You know what I mean? This is who we are. Now, to your point, do they have a multitude of personalities? No, they don't. That's it. That's what they're going to hang their head on, and that's probably why they're going to lose a lot of games. Yep. And the Packers, it's just tough because they're probably in a rock and a hard place, right? Where you want the ball to be in Aaron Rodgers' hands to dictate, to make decisions, because he is by far one of the most intelligent football players at the quarterback position that I've probably seen over the last 25 years. And then on top of that, you probably need to be incorporating getting the ball into Aaron Jones' hands and AJ Dillon's hands, because that's probably your best shot at winning. How do you manage that and balance that? And with that wide receiver core that you don't particularly think is very talent rich at this particular time, and maybe that's why they're continuing to struggle, and they could probably continue to struggle tonight. Will, do the Packers have a shot? Do they win?
No.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
No, but you know what though? But what Mike was mentioning though is interesting. I'm just curious, when it comes to games like this, I'm just really curious of what the fourth quarter has to say. If the Bills streak out to a 10-0, 14-0 lead, any sort of sense of progress that the Packers might want to try and make in defeat might be dashed before it even gets to the second quarter, right? The idea is at least try and hang into the game and have moments and drives where you are in contention and you're working on things and you're trying to pick up a big 3rd and 6 here and there. Of course, you're going to lose, but maybe you can walk out of it being like, all right, we've got this, we've got that, maybe this player or maybe this play, like Mike was talking about. They can start hanging their hat on stuff. But man, in this first quarter, if the Bills come out streaking, I mean, I don't know what progress the Packers can make tonight, and maybe that's the real problem that they're facing with, more so than what's going to end up in the loss column.
I think that's a spot on analysis. And this game has 14-3 at the beginning of the second quarter written all over it.
Yep.
And the worst, like it's not even possible to find an identity for your team when the other team is dictating the way that you have to play in a game because they jump out to a lead, right? Like the Falcons win over the 49ers a few weeks ago. They got out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. And San Francisco just totally had to change what they wanted to do. The game script got thrown out the window. And that is the Packers are in jeopardy of having that happen to them tonight. I hope that it doesn't, because I just want to see a good game as a football fan. But I do think that kind of having the Packers around is fun for football. Aaron Rodgers is a fun person to kind of have storylines about, like,
oh yeah,
having them as the 7th seed in the playoffs with the potential to make a run, like that's all good stuff. So I hope that the Packers are able to kind of figure it out and put something together. But I am really worried tonight that that's not going to be the case. Now, after this, they get Detroit. Offensively, you would think that they'd be able to get something going there, but then Dallas, Tennessee, Philly, that's a tough 3-game stretch. And then they got a little bit of a break at Chicago. With your
Stop
Bears.
Stop yourself. We'll beat him one of these
week.
decades. One of these decades, we'll beat that team. Don't you worry.
One of these decades.
I don't think we beat him. We haven't beaten him in this decade yet. That's for sure. I don't think we've beaten them since 2019. So we got that going for us, which is fantastic. We just got a couple more minutes here. We got about maybe like 8 or 7 minutes before we're going to hop off and get ready for Sunday Night Football. I just want to kind of pepper you with some questions here really quick and maybe see if we can get some knee-jerk reactions here. The first one is, the Rams look toast to me. I can't quite figure out who the 49ers are going to be on a week-to-week basis, even though, man, Christian McCaffrey looked really, really, really good. Even without Deebo Samuel, that offense looked incredibly terrifying. So maybe it's a little bit more to do with that. But in your opinion, are the Rams toast right now? They just don't look good. It's lethargy at its worst on offense.
Yeah, I think they are, but I kind of think that they're okay with that. Like, they mortgaged everything for last year and they won the Super Bowl. Good for them. Yeah. And Sean
totally
McVay did not look like he was having so much fun today on the sideline. However, it's going to be, this is not their year. It's going to be a work in progress, I think, but the Rams are going to probably be in contention. The quarterback situation is going to be something they need to figure out. But let's talk about the 49ers, because like they're, to me, the story, and it's so interesting that Kyle Shanahan kind of made this move, and they almost took a play out of the Rams playbook, like going to get Christian McCaffrey in that trade. And reportedly they were up against the Rams in that acquisition. I think Kyle Shanahan thought this team was going to be one thing before the year with Trey Lance. And then that injury has tweaked, I think, a lot of what he thought the identity of this offense would be. So I commend him for going to make a move for Christian McCaffrey, because it looks like they're retooling this offense a little bit on the fly and finding a new face of the offense. And it looks like that's going to be Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's incredibly wise.
That's a great point, man. I mean, it just dawned on me. It's almost like when they went out and got Von Miller last year. You're like, all right, you've already got Aaron Donald and you've already got Leonard Floyd. Why? Oh, yeah, because it makes you even more intimidating on that side of the football. And if you're the 49ers, a lot of people were like, oh, man, Jeff Wilson's been playing pretty darn good this year. Do they? Yes, they do. And today it was fantastic. Dude threw for a touchdown pass, ran for another. He's still scoring fantasy points on my team right now as we look at it. and if Jimmy G can, I guess, can he just level off? Can he be seen and not heard? You know what I'm saying? Like on a week-to-week basis, you know, all of a sudden it turns into that division where you're looking at it and it's a Seahawks 49ers race. And if the Rams aren't too careful, yeah, they might get caught up behind a little bit. And it, you know, I'm with you. It might not be their year, but they don't have a first-round pick for what, the next several years? So
yeah,
every
it's
single
a
year.
long time.
So until you get your first-round pick back, in my opinion, you're in it to win it, right? And it just is an unfortunate step back. And yeah, Stafford does not look good. I'm already you're gearing up, right, for the whole like, well, Stafford wasn't healthy last year. You know what I mean? He wasn't healthy last year, but now he is. But he's a year older. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of gearing up for that, and we'll see what happens moving forward. And of course, they can maybe turn around. It just doesn't look very good. Next one I want to pepper you with. We mentioned it briefly. When do the Eagles lose? When's it coming? When's it going to happen?
Oh man, that's a great question because like I know the rest of their schedule is not the toughest in the world, right? Which is the benefit of, you know, finishing where they did in the division. Is sometimes you get a little bit of an easier one, but man, so they've got Houston, Washington, Indy, Green Bay, Tennessee, New York, Chicago, Dallas, New Orleans, and New York. That is there's
pretty
not
easy.
Yeah, I was like, there's not a juggernaut on that. However,
you trip up once though, right? Like you play poorly one of these weeks, right? So like, what is it? When is it?
I kind of feel like the Washington game. I don't know why. It's
that.
Like that one's just sticking out. It's an in division. It's a team out of nowhere. I want to say it's a primetime game for sure. It's 8:15.
Do you know the date? When is that? A couple weeks?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it a Thursday night game? It's November 14th.
Okay, a little too early for snow. A little too early for snow, right? You know what I mean? Like just a really awesome crappy weather game. Hey, this is real. This is what we call live stream. It's real time, Will. We're thinking this as we go.
That's a Monday night game. It's a Monday night game. Man, but Jalen Hurts is going to throw for like 5 touchdowns in this game. But I'm sticking with my pick.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't happening today, right? I mean, you know, the Steelers, it wasn't going to happen. But moving forward, you have to think there's some trap game that's coming. Yeah. Could it be all of a sudden? Maybe is it the Packers? If the Packers can sort of get their stuff together in the next couple weeks after that, maybe they take a beating by the Bills tonight. You know, I think that's something that maybe is worth, I don't know, contemplating. But yeah, man, they keep rolling, they keep looking good, and yeah, they don't play Dallas for a while. I really like Dallas, man. I really do.
Dallas is good. Yeah.
It's just, and again, it's funny because
Micah Parsons is so that fumble recovery for a touchdown, like he's so good.
And of course, yeah, like when great players, right? The ball, it's a magnet to the ball, right? Of course, it's him that picks it up and runs it back.
I thought the same thing. I was like, imagine being that guy that is right next to Micah Parsons about to pick up that ball, and you're just like, dude, really? Like, you're okay, like, go, I guess.
What I could have been, Will. What I could have been. The touchdowns I would have had. But no, I mean, look, man, we all talked about a regression to the mean with turnovers last year with that defense. It's not happening. They're still causing turnovers. They're still scoring points on that side of the ball. The Bears defense, I don't think is very good. I think our secondary can possibly have some potential in years to come. But our defensive line, man, is replacement level at best. And I am being generous in that regard. So Dak Prescott ripping through them today. I don't know. We'll see a little bit. I think Tony Pollard's the answer there. I think they have enough solid weapons on offense to play these games. And they're just like that team, right? Much like the Giants a little bit, where they're just going to win games 20-16, you know, and that's going to be fine for them. And then, you know, I think they have an opportunity to possibly win a playoff game. We got to get out of here, man. You want to talk some Halloween for a couple minutes? What'd you do this weekend? Halloween candy, Halloween movie. What'd you do? You tell me.
Yeah. Well, my wife is currently 32 weeks pregnant. So we did go to a party last night, but we left pretty early. So it's been a low key Halloween, which is kind of why I'm wearing my costume on the podcast. You know, it's
Today's the day.
oh god, we're getting old. But yeah, it's we're gonna block party stuff tomorrow. Kids in the neighborhood trick or treating, got some candy, picked all that good stuff up. So that'll be got the no nuts, got some lollipops for the allergic, crowd, because that was
Mindful.
an issue last year. Yeah, and we felt pretty bad. So trying to be thoughtful for everybody, an inclusive Halloween, I guess, Joey, is what we're doing over here. But what about you? How's your Halloween going?
Well, to defy my age, I was a Ghostbuster this year, which I haven't done since I was 4 years old.
Were you Leslie Jones? Is that the Ghostbuster that you were?
She's my favorite, but I can't do that, Will. You know that. You know that deep down inside. No, I was straight Venkman, man. Straight Venkman. But you know what? We are talking about age right now. Two things happened. The first one was we did something last week, and I don't want to besmirch it. I actually had a really, really wonderful time. But me and some friends, we had a dinner, and then we just kind of like took a walk around the neighborhood to see the amazing Halloween decorations. And honestly, in SoCal, California, you can imagine production people. They're really cool yards, and it was great. It was literally like trick or treating, but you're not knocking on doors getting for candy. So it's almost like I'm not allowed to knock on doors anymore, right? I ain't getting no candy, but I can at least walk around and look at the yards and go, it's beautiful. Look at that witch. Animatronic witch. Gorgeous. And I loved it. I loved every second about it. That's my age. The other part about my age too as well is that there's no way in hell I'm going into Hollywood anymore for a Halloween anymore. That time is past, my friend.
Why? What's that like?
I mean, do you like slip sliding on someone's lung butter? Do you
love it.
Do you like standing in line? I was never a club guy. You know what I mean? I was never a club type person. But no, I mean, in Hollywood, it's just kind of wild. Young kids running around doing stuff. The clock strikes 12. Some dude says something to some other dude. A fight breaks out. All sorts of things. Can't get an Uber to save your life.
Yeah.
But no, we had a nice time. We went out a little bit last night, did a little bar crawl in my neighborhood. I am a big horror movie fan, so I enjoy Halloween, all the good stuff. Make my wife watch all the terrible horror movies that I love deeply.
What's your go-to? What's your number one scariest movie? Because for me, it's Hereditary.
Oh, really, dude? That's a great modern one.
Yeah,
it's a really, really good modern one.
Sometimes at night, if I have to go like let my dog Luna out or something like that, nothing gives me chills more than imagining somebody crawling on the ceiling, like behind, like at the very end of that movie. Spoiler alert or whatever. I guess it's not a spoiler. But it it freaks me out.
Scariest movie of all time, in my opinion, continues to be The Exorcist. So I still hold that up there as a very high standard. Even if the effects aren't quite up to snuff anymore these days, I think the psychological tension in itself. But no, I'm a Halloween guy every year. Just when are we doing it? Halloween and H2O, baby. When are we doing Halloween 20 years later? When are we rocking it? Great soundtrack. LL Cool J.
H2O.
Josh Hartnett's first screen role. Joseph
like watching
Gordon-Levitt.
Jason X every year, just being like, yes, a classic. Let's turn it on.
Let's rewind this scene, honey. You're going to really like this.
He's in space. No, it's like the vacuum of space. It's cold.
And he's fighting Freddy? Wait a second. What's going on? So no, other than that, you just try and like kind of go around. There's always the lighter fare, like the Beetlejuices of the world. It's still very much a Halloween movie. I also did because I was getting into character, Will, because that's what I do. I prepare. Definitely watched Ghostbusters last week. Maybe not a Halloween movie. Yeah, maybe not a Halloween movie, but pretty close, right? We're in the sci-fi area. And no, had a really good time. It's a good holiday. It's a fun holiday.
Yeah.
And now
underrated.
it's just a race to just not pack on the pounds before Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? It's going to get colder out. You're going to start being like, oh, let's have a pot pie. No, you got to wait because Thanksgiving's right around the corner.
Counterpoint, you get to wear all of your sweatshirts and your loose fitting clothes in the winter. So that's when you pack on the heft, you bulk. You bulk in the winter, you cut in the spring, and you're good to go for the summer, my man.
You mean the lockdown ensemble?
Oh, yeah.
For all seasons? Yeah, no, man, I can break out my Zubas. I don't know if you're familiar with Zubas, but they're fantastic sweatpants. And it's just a Bears pattern.
I know as much about Zubas as I do dogfight football. So, yeah.
You're too busy oiling up your abs, You're on the beach. You're fighting unknown, vague adversaries across
Yep.
seas, keeping us safe on these shores by going over there to do that. And for that, Will, we salute you and we thank you. And that's going to do it. We got to get out of here. There's a football game coming any single second, everyone. So thank you so much for hanging out and checking it out. This was the Bleav NFL live stream, week 8 on the YouTube channel here. We're here every single Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We are the Bleav Sports Network because we have 32 NFL teams with 32 former NFL players paired with fantastically talented hosts. And every single week, we bring that roster onto the show, cut it up, and react to the week's action. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. You can follow us at Bleav Sports. Will, man, great to see you, dude. Love co-hosting these with you throughout your socials, my man. And I hope to see you soon. As long as the Falcons keep winning, man, I'm going to keep bringing you on. We're going to keep talking about it. This is a ride. Falcons, let's ride.
Let's ride. Falcons country, let's ride.
Let's fly.
You can follow me. You can follow me on Twitter at Will McFadden. Nice and simple. Please give Bleav in Falcons a follow wherever you listen to lovely podcasts like this one or Joey's or any of the great Bleav podcasts. Ovi Wahle, former Falcons fullback, all pro, is my co-host. He has great insight as well. So yeah, Joey, anytime you need me, man, you know where to find me.
I love having you. You're going to come back soon. Everyone, be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. Thank you so much for tuning in to this live stream. We will see you next week in week 9.